What's happening, sports fans? We welcome you back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, Tommy's in one of these. I should get this all figured out eventually. Tommy will be in one of these directions.
I'm in one of the boxes.
You're in one of the boxes. He's in a glass case of emotion right now with a fresh new haircut.
In a physical glass case because I'm stuck doing this from car because I couldn't get to the computer in time. So
I was physically locked up there. Noah Laxina is joining us. Bodhi De Silva is joining us on behalf of Scorebook Live. Bodie is Scorebook Live is the official digital content provider of all things CIF, but Bodie is the face of Scorebook Live, and we have started to demand this publicly in all of the Instagram comment section. That what we got to do to hashtag get more Bodie on that channel. It might be a long hashtag, but it's what we want. You can check out everything they do at Scorebook Live, SB Live, CA on social. Before we go any further, though, let's say thank you again to our sponsors, the United States Army, and check out everything that they have in this message. All right. Thank you again to the Army. Guys, today on the show, we're going to talk top 10, throw out some game balls. We have to then also move on to some game predictions. And maybe we have some front runners now in terms of playoff standings now that the official CIF rankings or the power rankings have been released, or at least the first draft of them. But before we go any further, let's talk top 10. Bodhi De Silva from Scorebook Live, your top 10 teams from this week.
Yeah, so there was very minimal movement this week. Couple bye weeks there where I don't like moving a team out after a bye week. It's not their fault they didn't play that week. So Carlsbad at number one. I've had them there, and they made me look a little smart this week. They had a really impressive victory against Bakersfield Liberty, one of the best teams in the Central Section, a team that was in the state championship last year. And Carlsbad really did everything. They got Zach Marshall eligible. He scored a touchdown on the first possession. He later threw a touchdown. Defensively, they had 7 sacks. They held Liberty to 123 total yards. So, like Coach Thad McNeil said after, it was like finally they were able to put together a complete game. They'd had some quarters here and there throughout the year, but they finally put one together. And so they stay at number one. At number two for me is still Madison. They did have to come back from a 12-0 fourth quarter deficit. And I think that just kind of shows Granite Hill is a legit team. So that was impressive on their part. Number 3 is Lincoln. Obviously a big one coming up this week. Number 4, Cathedral Catholic. That is who Lincoln will be playing. Number 5 for me is still Helix. They're having a really good year. I thought they'd be good. I didn't know if they'd be this good. They've been impressed of a really nice win over Southern Section Servite. Number 6, Poway, still unbeaten. And the way I'm looking at their schedule, I don't see a loss the rest of the regular season. Granite Hill stays at number 7 for me. Mira Mesa is there at number 8. They 2 shutouts in a row. Mira Mesa, I think another team that's surprising, but they are definitely legit. La Costa Canyon's at number 9 and El Camino at number 10, and those 2 will play each other as well this week.
Tommy Morris, anything to add, correct, change, disagree with, or do you have your own top 10 from this week?
No, I mean, that all sounds pretty good to me. Sorry, my notes are going to be a little bit limited this week because I'm stuck reading off my phone. But no, I mean, all sounds good. I just want to give another shout out to Helix for beating Servite. That's a big deal. We as a section have struggled against the Southern Section, so it's good to get one of those on the books. So good job.
And I was going to say specifically for the Helix game, it maybe leaves a good taste in our mouth because it's one of the later of there's not many, if any, more cross-section games until we get to
and I think like Bodie mentioned, Carlsbad and I think Lincoln also out of section with wins. So a good week for us after what was not a good week the weeks before. So
several weeks.
Good job, everybody.
Not a good start to the season in terms of us playing against the Southern Section. Noah Lax, anything you got on the top 10 before we move on?
No, I like it. I think it's just I'm ready for next week, man. And when you get through a week, you're ready for the next one. It's been so fun to see everybody compete, and I love the Bodie's list.
Yeah, I think that the only thing I will close out with is I saw a rather lengthy thread that I had minimal interest in actually reading every single one of them. So I gave myself the cliff notes of it, of people arguing about the validity of who does the power rankings and the voting and all that kind of stuff. And what is the point? And is it a popularity
bias?
And who has bias and this, that, and the other.
Those damn biased computers.
I just want to point out that if your point of view is that somehow there needs to be a fundamental redoing of the voters poll, then like,
yeah,
GTFO, like you don't get the show type of thing. Like that's just kind of the point of football. It has it is its own ecosystem. And part of the ecosystem is the writers and the people that want to feel like we're all doing like sports coverage. And on a lot of this, it's just part of like what came before. So we keep doing it. So it's fun. So it gives everyone something to talk about, and that, can be a centralized post and a concept of like, oh, that's how we value this win or that win or the other, instead of it all just being data and results and looking at a spreadsheet of numbers. It gives some sort of context to everything that goes on. And
and shout out to John Maffey for continuing to coordinate that. And every year, I think what I really like is he's willing to add people from different regions that may have expertise, and just trying to get, it's not where it's 3 people voting, whatever, it's 28, 29 total voters now. Like there's enough people across the board where I think it balances out. And I think even this week, there were 5 different teams that had number 1 votes. So it just kind of shows this is a year that there isn't that number 1 cathedral is going to roll through everyone, which I think should make playoffs really exciting.
And he also loves it when random people email him with anger about the rankings. So go ahead and do that. Make sure you all angry, anything you're mad about, just send it to John Maffey. He loves that.
Yes, send it to Maffey instead of any of us, or send it to Tommy at SC Prep Insider.
Send it to me. Actually, I like to read them.
Look, I think closing note. I just really want to emphasize that it's just not worth anybody's time to be that angry about, because it doesn't decide any of the playoff seedings. It doesn't do any of this kind of stuff that actually provides any value, anything other than anecdotally the football year. So on that note, we will move on to our game balls segment, from celebrating the top performers from previous weeks. Tommy Morris, we can start with you if you would like, because you always have a special teams player of the week that is popping and very popular. So you want to give us that and your game balls from this week, please?
Yes. Hold on one second. Again, sorry, you won't get to see my face because reading this off of my phone, which, bummer for everybody. So special teams player of the week, Tyler Prozin from Carlsbad, 3 for 3 on PATs, 2 of 2 for field goals, including a 42-yarder. I think he's perfect on the year, if I'm not mistaken, on both PATs and field goals. I think it was some like 10 of 10 for PATs, 5 of 5 for field goals. So awesome job there so far this season for Carlsbad. We're going to go over to Bonita Vista. It's Caden out of Tannehill, 14 carries, 151 yards, and a touchdown in their win this week. Joshua Bell, we talked about their game versus RBV last week, and I think a lot of us were wrong. I was wrong. I personally was wrong, and Josh was part of the reason why. Quarterback from Mount Carmel, 338 yards, 4 touchdowns in their win against Rancho Buena Vista. Kevin Allen from Helix, big win against Serva. We just mentioned it, 227 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. And then my final guy I'm going to mention would be Drayden Gardner from University City. 167 total yards, including a massive 78-yard touchdown reception as time was about to run out to seal the deal for University City over the Bishop School. So big day for Drayden Gardner. Again, that's the name you're going to hear a lot of in the next couple of years because he's only a sophomore.
The end of that game was
wild.
Well, Bodie has been to one of those already, which is laughable that Bishops continues to take the hardest versions of L's. It was the Rancho Bernardo game all over again. Big school versus small school. The crazy thing, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the last play, Bishops got back within field goal range. And shout out to Bishops having a field goal kicker that they were confident in at 45 yards. But snap.
There was also a double pass that almost hit too.
Yeah, that's
before that.
Snap goes. Oh yeah, the double pass almost hit, but yeah, snap goes wrong. Holder jukes a dude to keep it alive. Laterals back to the kicker who chucks a Hail Mary that gets caught at the 5. It was absurd.
If that would have worked, that would have been the best play in history of high school football.
Yeah, but to me, it just only made the L even that much harder to take for Bishops. It was crazy. That was a brutal one. Noah Lax, you got any game balls from last week? Do you want to get to?
More so just I want to two team game balls. One game ball to Mount Carmel just for the season that they're having, being able to turn that program to where it's at in 1 year. They're just lighting up the world on offense.
Big
and
game hunting last weekend too.
Yes, and just the fact that Coach Westling's what he's been able to do there, and that whole staff over at Mount Carmel has been amazing. And then one team game ball to Modern Day, turning it around. Tough start to the season, but still one of the favorites in D1. And just, you know, a lot of talk has happened, but, you know, just to go out on the field and get a dominating victory and turn that season, turn the ship and turn that season around, a big game ball to them, because they're going to start making some noise, and they're going to still be a force to be reckoned with in San Diego.
We had a video of Jalen Hall's 71-yard touchdown on our IG Reels. You guys should all go check out. But I'm curious. There was a coach on that sideline that explodes down and closes the gap almost between the Jalen and where he was over a 20-yard span. And I'm curious if that was Coach Joyner. And then if so, I would like.
Was it Meach?
I don't know. I don't know about that, Tommy. But we can maybe put that on the poll someday. Is Coach Joyner sneaky fast and have explosive speed? See, Bodhi De Silva, did we get to your game balls from this week?
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
first up, Chris Williams from Francis Parker, dual support guy there. 147 total yards, 5 touchdowns in their win over Orange Glen. He seems to be performing every week. Joshua Bell.
And then he probably went to a summer league or a fall league baseball game and threw 10 strikeouts or something like that too.
well, and at Parker, it's just they wait around and they clear the field, and then the next sport will get out. With Ryan Sanborn back in the day, doing about 7 sports as a senior. Joshua Bell from Mount Carmel, their quarterback. Big upset win, as Noah talked about. 338 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, so they really have the offense rolling. Hamidi Sharif from Crawford, 169 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, over 14 yards per carry in their win over San Ysidro. Aliante Logan from Morse, 6 catches, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'll finish off with Malachi Gitman, the Patrick Henry quarterback, 314 passing yards and 5 touchdowns in their close win over Morse.
Hamadi's going to appreciate the shout out, Bodie. That Crawford team is hungry for some attention. And I think it's been an interesting dance that they've been doing the last couple of years with success, because that was like 2016 that they played Vincent Memorial in a D5 championship, something like that. I don't even know if you were on the beat yet at that point. Really foggy game. Like you couldn't see the field. Since then, you know, it's been the rebuild back to getting there, but they've flirted with early season.
2017.
It was the 2017 one. Okay.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's been hunting back to getting in that commanding position. And they've started out some seasons with some hype, but ultimately kind of fell short. This year, though, it feels like they're the real deal. And it feels like those guys are genuinely following through game after game after game in a way that
it's like when they got the new stadium is like a new attitude all of a sudden.
Yes. I am curious. They were talking on Twitter about how they saw that video was central, bringing in with a horse, and that there was a horse at the last game. And I'm curious what we got to do though to get Matt Marquez to be the one on top of that horse leading the charge this year at homecoming for the Crawford.
Oh,
that's what.
No, you know what he needs to be. No. This needs to be between Marquez and his team. He needs to put out some sort of bet. You know, like some coaches like, I'll shave my head if.
Okay.
He needs to find something that he can do with his team where it's like, if you guys achieve this goal, I will ride in the next game on a horse. That's what needs to happen.
Huh. Okay.
I think they save that for like playoff time. Imagine first round of the playoffs, hosting a playoff game, and you're all the visitors, and you look across from you, and they come out the tunnel, and coach is out on a horse. Like that's
with the headset on.
I was like, I might.
So I was just saying,
if I looked across at that, I'd be like, "Hey, man, it's been a good season. Let's pack it up." I'm just kidding.
Well, don't you? Well, at what point though do you keep, like, maybe because Marquez is going to need to one up Central? Does he coach on top of the horse? Does he do the whole first half from horseback on the sideline? You know, commanding his troops out there. Maybe it gives you a good angle.
What would have to happen for us to do a podcast on a horse?
Probably not much, man.
That'd
That'd
be so dangerous.
There's not much in terms of like auditing process for the quality of the content that we push out for CIF. They just enjoy us being. Exactly, intern. All right, moving on. Bodhi De Silva, you got a ton of articles always coming out. You got a ton of great stuff at Scorebook Live. What do you got coming up this week that you can preview for people, and where can they check it out? How can they consume it?
Yeah, now that everyone's had a good amount of the season to kind of put some numbers up there and show what they're all about. Working on top running backs list, and as I go through, I keep adding names because there are guys that I think half of the group is kind of guys that we expected to be great this year. The Roderick Robinsons, the Angelino Trapasos, the Connor Raths, Major Givens, those guys. But there's also been a really good group of guys that have kind of popped up. Shouldn't say out of nowhere, but whether they're sophomores or they were a junior last year and were a backup, those different guys. Sir Darius Autry's a guy that comes to mind we were talking about from Hoover. Demarion Wright from Morse, a guy that put up really solid numbers last year and has backed it up with even more this year. So the running back group in San Diego always seems to be loaded, and it is once again.
Demarion Wright is the T-1000 from Terminator, a liquid one. It's just adapts to everything. Everything I've seen, every type of defense throw at him, he somehow just emerges on the other side of, and continues running for another 30 or 40 yards in the end zone. I will say that it consistently seems like every time Tracy McNair has somebody whom he can singularly rely upon to just facilitate all versions of an offense, they tend to make a CIF championship, if not win a CIF championship. So, we will see where Morris goes, but that team looks really threatening to me. Thank you, Bodie, for everything there. Guys, let's talk about some game predictions. As always, this is all just for fun, and our personal opinions never, ever, ever actually matter about any of this. But if you want to get more, you can follow all the scores all weekend long at the SB Live Sports app or on the CIF SDS website. There's a little Scorebook Live, little scorebug that is absolutely clutch to check out for everything. First game, though, guys, Madison and Mira Mesa. Mira Mesa seems to have entirely erased their week 1 loss to Helix and now looks threatening. And Tommy, in the span of 4 weeks, has gone from looking very frozen cold takes for saying that Mira Mesa was going to be explosive on offense to now back to looking correct for investing early in that take. So this could be a really interesting game. And again, big game hunting opportunity for Mira Mesa's second one of the season. So let's go around the horn. Let's start with you, Bodie De Silva.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately for Mira Mesa, I think they're probably catching Madison at the wrong time. Madison last week had that kind of game where they had to come from behind 12-0 in the fourth quarter. So I think that's one that was probably a wake-up call to them. I'm sure Rick Jackson, their head coach, has used that all week of like, hey, look, we got to come from the start. This is another good team, a nearby team in Mira Mesa, a team that has not allowed a point in their last 8 quarters. So I think I like Madison here. 10 points or so, but this is a Mira Mesa team that is very good, and wouldn't be shocked to see them make it any closer than that.
Tommy Morris.
Yeah, I'll do it. So we mentioned the Mira Mesa. Bodie mentions the Mira Mesa defense. It's impressive last 2 weeks. Makai Thompson, we mentioned him a million times this year. Mr. Do Everything, and Tyson Line, a great quarterback. This looks like a good year for Mira Mesa to win a game like this. So I'm going to go with the Marauders to, as you said, big game hunt, a Warhawk. I like Mira Mesa in this one by 7.
Noah Laxina, you're the deciding vote.
Man, I'm going to be safe. I'm going with Madison. I think they're just the better football team. I think it's going to be close. It might come down to the last play. But I think Madison kind of is going to wake up from last week, like Bodie was saying. They got too many athletes over there. They're a really physical football team. And I think that, Mira Mesa is going to show way better performance than they did versus Helix, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I'm going Madison.
Win or lose for Mira Mesa, I know that somewhere up above us, Chris Thompson is smiling that this is what the reality is now for this program. I know that when he took over initially, maybe what was that, like 5 years ago, that he had said, Mira Mesa is going to matter once again. We're going to start playing the biggest games. And it would seem that Mira Mesa does indeed matter again and is back to playing the biggest games.
That is correct.
Next one that we got is San Pasqual and San Marcos. San Marcos, very good quarterback play out the gate this year. They seem to be the real deal. San Pasqual knows how to run the ball, so maybe 2 different styles of offense clashing here. Tommy Morris, we'll start with you. What do you got?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet here. I got San Marcos by about 21 in this game. I really like
air raid.
I like them this year. I know they've had a couple games where they didn't come out and play the way they wanted to, but I like San Marcos here.
Bodie De Silva from Scorebook Live. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, you talked about contrasting styles that it really is. Just looking at their yards per game, they both average in the 330 yard per game amount. But when you look how they do it, San Pasqual 232 of those are on the ground, and San Marcos 292 of theirs are through the air. So I think if San Pasqual can just chew up the clock, get these first downs, they can keep it close. Ultimately, I think San Marcos is the better team. I'm going to go 31-21 San Marcos.
Ooh. Noah Laxina, your chance to take apparently San Pasqual as an underdog, or are you going San Marcos here?
I'm going San Marcos as well. I think the games where they lost this season, it's one of those growing moments when you have an offense like the way they do and have a young quarterback like they do. And I feel like San Pasqual is going to be able to move the ball early, but I also think that spread offense for San Marcos is too lethal, and they're going to jump out ahead. And then when they get a bigger lead, San Pasqual is going to have to throw the ball. And no disrespect to their throwing game, but their running game is their strength. So having to go away from that, I'm going to go with San Marcos.
We moved next to a surprisingly big league game between Coronado and Hoover. You previously, Bodie, talked about Darius Autry, great running back, breakout star for Hoover. They seem to be trending upwards offensively. Coronado, a program that seems to be trending upwards in general the last few years. They are both maybe chasing Crawford for the league title all season. So this one would be basically the de facto second place game right now for who would have an actual chance at upsetting Crawford. Where do we start with this one, Bodie De Silva?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see us really split on this one. For me, I'm going to go with Hoover, and I think their ground game. I do think, and Coronado plays a lot of these low-scoring games, so each possession is going to be super important. This isn't one where each team's going to have like 15 possessions throughout. So I'm going to go with Hoover 17-10 in this one.
Noah Laxina.
I'm going to go Hoover as well. I think they got the de facto best player in the game out of both. And when you get to these league games and you get later in the season, really in all high school football games, that's kind of the first question. Who has the best player in the game? And I think Hoover does with their running attack, and I think they win a close one.
Tommy Morris.
Yes, Darius Autry will be probably the best player on the field, but I've seen Coronado win games like this. I think Coronado wins this thing. Graham Bauer, a good player for them as well. I don't know why. I have this weird feeling it's gonna be a weird score too. It's gonna be like somehow 9-7 or so, just something very odd.
I think have a scoregami.
I think we will. Yeah, it'll be like 11-8 or something. So something bizarre is going to happen, but I do think Coronado wins this game by half a touchdown. I think it'll be very close throughout the whole entire game, but I like the Islanders.
Yeah, I will go with this is certainly going to be the most intense defense that Hoover has faced this year. So this will be an actual good test to, as we are talking about whether or not Darius Autry is a breakout star this year. It's time for him to step up and play a stronger defense, and this will be a very, very, perfectly slated one step up defense from everything else that he has faced this season. Our last game of the week that we're going to talk about is LCC and El Camino. LCC storming into some people's top tens. El Camino has flirted with it this season. We will start with you, Noah Laxina.
Oh man, I'm gonna go LCC. LCC.
Love
Simple.
it. Tommy Morris.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would go with LCC here, but the one thing that still sticks out to me, sorry, as I come back on screen here, the one thing that sticks out to me is how close El Camino played Carlsbad. That would worry me if I'm LCC, because Carlsbad is kind of like a super version of LCC is this year. So I like El Camino in this one. I think their defense holds up, and we'll have a medium scoring affair. It'll be, again, like a 17-14 type thing, but I like El Camino.
Bodie De Silva.
Yeah, I'm going to go with LCC here. I got to see them really handle a Mission Hills team a few weeks ago. Didn't allow them one offensive touchdown, and then really impressive against San Marcos 2 weeks ago, 30-7. That one was over by halftime. Both teams are coming off the bye week, so maybe we see some trick plays, some things that they were able to work on with those extra days off these last few weeks. And I'm going to go with Costa, but I have these teams 9 and 10 and for my ranking. So really could see either one, and El Camino does have that home advantage, but I'll take Costa.
It's fun.
If there's a trick play for a touchdown, we have to do something on a horse. Because Bodie called it.
Sure.
We have to.
Are you Tommy? Are you doing anything on a horse at your wedding? Are you entering or exiting your wedding on a horse?
Debated it. I've never ridden a horse before, so that canceled that out.
That would be sweet.
Would have been cool though. It would have been sweet. The venue said that they had an elephant there before, so it would have been doable.
There you go.
Yeah. Elephant
maybe,
would be kind of clutch. I don't think there's a lot of those like kind of hanging out, but
maybe at the 1 year anniversary, you can ride on a white stallion or something like that.
Yeah, golf carts are more realistic.
Sure. Yes. Definitely more
That one I'll do. I can do that. I can do a golf. I jumped off a cliff one time for this, so I remember.
Yeah. Yes. And you took you took a pie to the face that was actually technically an assault.
That was and then I dressed up as a knight one time. I'm willing to do another bet like that. I'm actually itching to do one. So we just got to think about the right school and the right.
Let's do this. Let's arrange like a little pick'em grid of death for the playoffs.
All right.
Where we all go in on something stupid that we have to dress up as that next week, and we'll dip into the SDPI budget and buy some costumes.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes. Deal.
I like it.
Yeah.
Bodie, you willing to be a participant in that?
Likely.
No, likely. Get out of here with that nonsense.
I'll take that. That's about as close as yes we're gonna get. So I'll take that.
We will find some sort of fandom or something like that we can have Bodie dress up as, or Bodie, you can just always be right and you can always pick the correct team and provide actual good football analysis, which I guess would help you avoid having to do any of our dumb shenanigans. But yes, Tommy, let's coordinate that. Let's figure out how we actually do that efficiently and accurately. Anything that we missed from this week, guys? Love to hear that sound. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We will talk to you guys next week.